How's it going, everybody? Today we are going to be doing a retrofit of my headlights on my 2002 4runner. So you'll basically need three main things when you're doing one of these. First, you have the HIDs. Here's the bulbs right here, and this is the ballast that goes with them. You can do LEDs or the halogens, but HIDs are recommended. If you're updating your headlights, you might as well go with a little newer and better technology. And then up here is the relay harness. This will kind of take the signal from my car, and then transfer it to the bulbs. And then over here we have the projector, and this is just some adapters they send with it, and then the shroud that goes on there. Alright, sorry for this messy engine bay, but we're just going to go over this harness real fast. So here we just have the positive connection. This will actually go to the battery, just to power the relay. It comes with a nice 25 amp fuse, so that's pretty nice to have that included. Then right here, this is going to plug into your ballast, and then that gets grounded through one of these. So you have two of those on each side. And then right here is for your high beams on the projectors. This will kind of just send a signal to the projectors and put in high beam. And then here, this will get your signal from your H4 bulbs, or I guess not the bulbs, but just what plugs into the bulbs. And then this will come over, and like on both sides, you'll have the HID connection, the high beam, and the ground's in there too. You always want to check that your products are working, especially when you buy off Amazon and get the cheap stuff. So I just kind of have them all laid out. The bulbs are inside of the housings. Same over here. Then we have the high beam plugged in. This is going from the bulb to the ballast. That high beam is going to the harness, the relay harness we had. The positive wire is nice and tight on there. And then I have the battery disconnected right now. Whenever you're doing electrical work, you want to make sure that's always disconnected. So it's just kind of sitting off to the side. The ballast is connected to the harness right here as well, and the harness is grounded right there. Alright, let's connect this terminal and see how they work. The battery is now connected, so we're gonna come over here, turn on our lights, and then we see that this one's working pretty well, and same here. And we're gonna go test the high beams real fast just because we have them. The projector's plugged in, why not? Pushing it forward. You might not be able to tell, but both of them are brighter. So one of the big reasons I'm doing this is because I do not like chrome, and projectors do not use that chrome inside the headlights to function properly. So I'll be able to paint that black later, but these shrouds came in chrome, so I'm going to do a gold that kind of matches my car. Right now I prepped these with just some 320 grit sandpaper, cleaned them up real good, used the tack cloth to get all the smaller stuff on it, and then this is just 2 light coats of this self-etching primer. And then I will go in and use some of this gold. It's not a perfect match, but it's kind of close. I strongly recommend using this hot water to warm up your paint. That really helps just with spreading. I'm also going to paint these side markers black, the housings. So these are pretty simple to take off. There's just one screw, and then you pull from the back. You have to pull these off to get the headlight anyway, and might as well bust open the lens and paint them black and put an LED in there just so they're bright enough. Sorry about the audio change, but there was a parts washer going in the background. So here, just explaining that we're going to use a trim plastic pry tool to just kind of go around the edges and more of like twist it to get it popped open. And then these side markers also have the tabs that kind of go around, so we just have to get around and in those, and then we go into the oven at 260. That is too hot, as you will see later. Then I ended up finding some spiders chilling inside of there. Tried blowing those out, and there's just one little hole that is kind of goes in between these orange little reflectors. Tried blowing it out, and it just popped the entire thing off. So now we'll have to either probably like epoxy those onto there. But let's get them on the housing. But with the heat that we are running, and those orange pieces actually add a lot of rigidity to the lenses, it warped it really bad. It was too hot and just completely messed it up. It wouldn't even go back on, so I just tossed it. Now we're going to focus on painting the side marker lights, as well as the projectors, because those are chrome and we do not want chrome. And that's going to not show very well, but it's going to show. So this is just hit with this 320 sandpaper, but it's not perfect. As you can see, there's just spots. So this is a lot more pliable, just like a Scotch-Brite kind of pad. So I'll have to do that to all of these chrome parts. Then we'll hit it with that same self-etching primer and some black paint. So now I'm just getting these ready for paint. We're going to put some masking tape around here. Ran into a little bit of a problem just taking off the back pieces of these. You can see it right here. That top screw is really tight on there. I guess it'd be top now. I actually had to get the Dremel out with the cutoff wheel and just make a little gash in there to get a flat head on there, because it stripped really easily because it was really cranked on there for some reason. But we'll just wrap this with tape, wrap this with tape. We definitely don't want tape getting into here, or paint getting into here. I'm using just some of these little plugs for the shroud mounting right here. So I'm just putting those in there, and then I'll throw tape around, and we'll be ready for paint. Just got these prepped up, cleaned it with isopropyl alcohol and a rag that is pretty lint free, but use the tack cloth anyway to get off any tacks. I'm not too worried about the taping here. A little bit more here, just so that it doesn't get down and into there. Using the caps from the paints just to prop them up so I can just go around and paint them. Just want to take a second to say how irritating this side marker business has been. Warped that first one, like you guys saw, and then got another one. It said it was about a week out, and then we came around and it was another week out, and another week came and it said you can get a return if it's by this day, and that was another week, so 3 weeks, and that came the last day that it could have. So that sucks. And also it's not even close to OEM quality. Let's show you kind of what happened to that. Here I have the lens that I pulled off. I was pretty patient with it, and it still just like exploded when I pulled it out. I just used some of that 5-minute epoxy on the inside, but that stuff's not super good in heat, and it's actually like yellow epoxy, I'm pretty sure, so that's kind of why. Yeah, if you see the translucent yellow, I would do clear for sure. Then I also broke off the tab that mounts the housing. It's painting right now, so I just JV welded that back together, and it does feel stronger than the other one, so that one's good. But we'll have to figure out what to do with this. Maybe just do like a line of plasti dip to kind of cover this up, and then do it to the other side just so it's even. But yeah, it broke all up here. All this right here broke off. I think there's another, it's hard to see right there, but that one broke off. And also just this guy. It just like was so much harder to deal with. So we'll just have to be careful. If I were to do it again, I would buy just two new side markers with the black housing. I found some of those, but I didn't see those before doing this. The side markers turned out really well. You can see the other one that doesn't quite have the lens, but we have them on now. I just wanted to show you these real fast. Still doesn't look perfect. You can see the cracks, but it looks a lot better than the crack did. Still not completely satisfied with it, so we'll see if I change those in the future. I can change them in the future because I did use the plasti dip. So this one just peeled right off. This one's gap is a little bit bigger, and I did a lighter layer on here. But this side I just got a knife and kind of cut the whole entire edge. And let's see if we can do this one-handed. Yeah, see, this stuff just peels right off. That's why I'm using this, because if I don't like this part, then I can just peel off this entire thing and just do something new there. Alright, I just got another package in. I'm going to be putting some halos on the shrouds. So I actually only need 2 of these, but the kit that had RGB was only in the pack of 4. So I'll just have to use the 2 for the other one. This is the RGB controller that it comes with. I did pick up a new one just right here, just because it's Bluetooth enabled, and I read that the Shimote can kind of die, and just from experience these don't work very well. It came with some mounting hardware, so that will be nice, and then a little thing to plug into the controller. So we need to test these just because everything's from Amazon, so you can't completely trust it. So I just have a little 12 volt thing that will plug in to the wall outlet. Alright, I'm just testing them out. They have a little IR sensor right here that connects. Turning them on. Wow, they are really bright. Let's do some different colors just to make sure. Yeah, working good. These LED rings actually are going to do pretty well on here. These are the 80mm ones. So the inner diameter is like 64mm or something, which is larger than 2.5 inches, which is the size of these projectors. So we'll put this in there. But we have a cord coming off the back, so we'll probably have to put a hole, probably like a slotted hole in it, in this area. Since I do not have too much of this wire, we're going to have to do a little bit different for kind of what I'm doing. So here is going to be the LED strips, the 2 halos, left headlight, right headlight. We're going to run the 4 wires from these 2 over to the right side, same here. We're going to run them right here, and then we're actually going to just solder them right here, with these being a little bit off of the kind of standard. We're going to use it a little differently, and then we're going to take the 4, and since it's all the same signal, we can run just one 4 wire up and into the cab, and then here's the controller, and we can just give it positive and ground through that with just this guy. So we do have a little bit of a problem here. As you can see, these two are connected. This is an LED strip, which everything here will be linked in the description, but I just had this laying around, so I'm going to use some of this. But the biggest problem is obviously we have red here, and it's hard to tell, but this is actually green. It is workable, as we can do some different colors. So the buttons that I press are correlating to the rings from this controller, and then from this controller, that's controlled off my phone, and whatever I choose on my phone will be correct on this, but not this. So basically, RGB LED strips have 4 wires going to them, a plus, a green signal, a red signal, and a blue signal, RGB, and that's actually how this one's set up too. It's actually like that. This is some extra wire that we have around that we are going to use to get the controller into the cab, because I don't want this controller to be outside. So these actually function off of this color as well, but something in these wires must be different, so I'll just have to probably snip it or do something with the connection here to make it so those red, green, blues line up with these ones. So diagnosing this is pretty easy. This has a little arrow on it. That is actually this one, that's the power. And then all you do is set your controller. This is the controller that has more of the standard, to white, and then you connect this power into the arrow, and you just kind of go around with these guys. It will just light up whatever color when you connect these ones with this one, so you just do it kind of one at a time. Alright, so I just figured it out here. Just left one's power, and it goes red, green, blue according to the outside. If we flip this, that would not be the case. But so here's the slot cut with the ring in there. We'll be able to pull that over. I did this by just drilling. This is a 7/64 bit. But you also want to make sure that you are drilling on the bottom of this, on the solenoid, right here on the bottom. You want to make sure that your slot is also on the bottom, because that's where it's going to be seen the least, and the wire for the solenoid comes out through the bottom, so you can just run this wire with that one. Here's that drilled, and then I'm going to take just this Dremel with the unmilled bit, and then just pull it across these to open up that slot so that I can fit this through there. Since I'm soldering it, I was able to cut this off, and my slot does not have to be as big to fit that. So this does not look perfect, but here's how the ring's going to look on there. So I just took these tabs. It comes with 12, so 4 rings. You have 3 of these tabs for each ring. I cut those in half, put them on the outside of this little lip. I just tried to get them as far to the outside as possible. And then also for the wire, kind of just chamfered a little bit with that Dremel, just because the wire protrudes a little bit. So it just needs a little bit more to go somewhere. This looks really good. It is pretty secure on there, but it's not the most secure, so I'm gonna pick up some 5-minute epoxy, then just kind of come in the side here and just make sure it's secure, because this is going to go in the headlight and through the lens, and I don't want it to pop off inside or I have to take off the lens. So like we went over earlier, these are oriented differently, and we're going to put it on one of these pins just so it's modular, because if I ever have to pull off the headlight and it's all soldered in permanently, then I won't be able to disconnect it. This stuff, it's actually LED channel with a little diffuser. I realized I didn't have a lot of RGB wire, so I actually picked up another roll with this one. For this stuff, you stick some LEDs in there, some strip LED LEDs will just sit in there, and then this little diffuser goes on top of it. So we're going to connect these with these little corner pieces. These guys open up, slide onto the outside of these. These are the waterproof ones, so we'll have to strip back. There's like a clear film on there, or a clear coating. But we'll have a 90-degree here. I kind of have it marked out where these need to be cut. This one kind of is unfortunate. It can't fit a whole nother section, but it does fit this, so we'll just have to deal with that. Then we have the other one kind of marked out, but we'll do miter cuts, 45-degree miter cuts at these two, and then join them up, and then be able to connect it with these in the middle, because these guys do fit in there. Although you see me using a horizontal bond saw, there is a lot of options for cutting 45 miters. You could even use just a normal hacksaw, or a hacksaw with this little contraption, or you can do like a miter saw. There's just many options for cutting this. But now we're just gonna go through the corners. We're gonna take off the plastic, go through the corners with some epoxy, and then also it comes with these little tabs. We're gonna stick those in the end and just epoxy those so that they don't leak either. So I got these painted up just like every other process. Just hit it with some of that Scotch-Brite pad and a self-etching primer and black paint. I just connected the corners with a little bit of that 5-minute epoxy, just to make sure it's all sealed up. So we'll be able to throw these LEDs in here and feed these through there. I did put these all in connectors, 4-pin connectors, as well as the LEDs halos. Those are 4-pinned as well, all of them there. I'm doing 4-pin just so it's more modular, because if I need to pull the headlight off for any other reason in the future, I'll just be able to unplug the connection. This is all I have for female connectors, so I'm just going to cut these here and be able to plug them in, and then run solder some wires to these. My girlfriend has some crafting resin that we're going to use just to, after we put these LED strips in here, we'll pull off the adhesive on the back, the strip, and then we'll fill this with some epoxy resin just to add some strength. Maybe do a little white in there to disperse the light even a little better than these, because I don't think these will do extremely well. So we have to put these through and do some 5-minute in the hole. Like everything, you just want to make sure everything works. I like testing with white because white uses all 3 of the connections. So what I like to do is just make sure nothing is blinking. If you have one of those 3 connections gone, then that color will not send the signal through, so you won't have that color that say red. It wouldn't be red, it'd send through the blue and green. But yeah, I just like to hit everything just before solid mounting it in, because everything till this point can be redone, but once we get the 5-minute to get these guys in, and then also pour that other resin, it'll be a lot different. Now that we have the headlights off, we can go around with them. I'm just going to take off the black sheathing just because it's a little bit more plasticky. Don't want the heat to hit that too hard. So this is a pretty simple process. we're just going to use a flathead screwdriver to pop off these. I'm not flying. There's 4 of them all around. And then to get this off, these are the adjusting bolts, so we'll just have to unscrew these, but also there's a spring holding it in right here. You're also going to take out the drains, just because those are a little bit more fragile too. And there's a clip right here too that we have to squeeze to get this housing off, so we'll do that, and then also just take off this tab. Not these two yet, just because we don't want the little thing. That's just the little guy in there that, and we don't want that moving around because we can't take that out yet. I did forget to mention that I marked these with just some red Sharpie, just down to the threads to get those adjusters close for after. But here it is, with everything off of it. Not too worried about that. Ready to go in the oven. This gap is pretty small, so I'm actually going to use just a butter knife on this to get in here and just pry it all the way around, making sure not to repeat my last mistakes and leave this in the oven too long. But this one is glass versus, I think those side markers are plastic, so this one is going to be a lot harder to warp. Okay, so that was really simple. This is actually a pretty good idea. Just kind of slipped in there, started at the bottom and just pried around. There's that spider that was chilling in there all day. But now we can just flip this over, take off this thing, and then we'll probably clean this up pretty good, scuff up all this paint, or scuff up all this chrome, and then paint it. So now these LED channels are looking really good. The only part I don't like is this little section just got a little overfilled, so it filled up to this covering that it comes with, and you can kind of see the LEDs there. It's not super strong, but now we can see why we did a 90 degree, because we're going to put it in the headlight like this. I was considering doing a more degree just to get it a little tighter around here, but this part just kind of is overhangy, and I actually wanted to do the bottom, but it's just going to overhang and kind of look weird. It does a tiny bit right here, but that's not a huge problem, and on the top. But what we need to do now is, there's little tabs on here, so we need to cut those off, because I just have this little silicone thing that comes with to adapt these projectors to the lenses, but this is pretty flat, and that going up to that is not going to be very good. And then we also need to drill the holes for these LEDs, which we'll just line them up, get them close and where I want them to be, and then we'll drill holes and try to do the minimal amount as possible to get our connectors through, just so we don't have huge holes. And then we will mount those up with double-sided 3M tape, and yeah, we'll go from there. Now that these are marked, we can drill the holes and kind of just clean it out with the Dremel. I should have used a little bit more foresight here, just because that mark is actually pretty close to this mount, so when I go through, we'll see kind of what happens, but it is what it is. I don't want to change these things just because that would be a pain. Now that we have these cut up pretty good, have the right holes for the LEDs, and the insides are nice and cut up. We're just going to clean up the insides a little bit with some sandpaper. This is just 320. We're not going to see this too well with that gasket, so that's okay. And then we will Scotch-Brite the whole thing. I did almost forget, I'm going to cut a little channel in the bottom for those wires, just a little bit, just kind of channel out a little bit for those wires to snip through there. Alright, let's do 2 coats of this primer. The other paint we're using is this semi-gloss enamel. It's just a black. I like the black because it looks way better than the chrome. And that's what I used for the side markers, and it turned out pretty good. I like the semi-gloss finish. I can do a clear coat over it, but that would probably gloss it up a little bit. And it's just not necessarily in this situation because like the black clear coat, so we'll do probably 3 coats of this black, and this stuff has a long dry time, so we'll come back in about a day to the back of the projector here. We're just going to feed the wires the rest of the way through. A little notch in the bottom helps that I made earlier. These adapter plates have the little cuts in them to fit the top of the projector threading. So we're just going to stick it in like that. And then we'll go with the nut, put it all the way on. We're just going to go high and tight right now. We are going to pull these off in a second. So here's just the top view of it. That's the reason we're going to pull them off. We're going to fill that little hole with epoxy. The only other hole that we have to worry about is where the wires go in right there. So we're going to fill this hole with that 5-minute epoxy, and then these ones with the silicone, just because it's not as permanent, and also this one with the silicone. These are just drain, that one and that one are just drains. I'm not too concerned about that, so we'll get some epoxy, we'll pull this projector off, get some epoxy in there, and then put this projector back on. But you have to make sure, because this has some rotating ability, we just have to make sure that those are flat before tightening that nut all the way down. So I got both of the projectors just hand tight in their housings. Cleaned up the housing before just with some Windex, and now we can see that we just have the ballast plugged into a bulb just as a test. This surface is going to be close to what the headlights experience, so I'll just show you the beam pattern and how it can be pretty sideways. So what we need to do is just grab this and rotate it until it is flat. So that's a lot better, maybe even a little bit more flat, and then we'll do it with the other one. Now that these projectors are tightened with the crescent wrench, I'm going to move on to installing this LED. So I just picked up some of this Scotch 3M mounting tape that is clear. Already got a couple of strips on here just where it contacts. I doubled up the strips, so then I'll pull off the backings. They still all have the backings on them, and possibly put a little bit of 5-minute just on top of that glue. Then when those are in place, I can grab the silicone and put it in the hole from the back side, and then I can also use that silicone for the hole in the wires down there. I have a heat gun just to promote a little bit of adhesion for this double-sided tape. I know that just a little bit of heat is good, but we won't hit it too hard. These things turned out looking great. You can see here they're actually on there really good, just connected at pretty much all the corners. But yeah, they are looking really good. Plugging them in. This is the white, and all of them are matching really good, and it just looks really good. So we will wait for these lenses to lose the chrome and clean all these up and stick them back together. And I noticed that the lenses all have just some chrome on the sides, and then the bottom So this is just soaking in vinegar or bleach. Just around the corners. I don't think it'll mess up the glue, but I don't want to like completely saturate it. So this one's full, but this one was full, and then just kind of have some paper towels on it, and then we'll scrape it off with just the trim tool. Don't want to use anything metal because then it can scratch the glass. Coming over here, this stuff's pretty dry now. That's what the silicone looks like. I just used a toothpick to get it in there. Then we also have it around those wires. So let's look at these. Let me just take a second and say that these look so good. But we have the LED and the halo both going into the connections right here. And this is just heat shrink that's going to go over that, but don't want to do that quite yet. Then that goes over to this connection, same case, LED and halo into the back of this guy, and then just this wire is going to be the one that goes up and through the firewall, goes to the controller, and we just have that with the power right now, so let's see. Looks like it's working great. So this is a good time just to kind of look at the wiring one more time. So I just have this in there with the self-tapping screw. And on the other side, just kind of clean it up. It's not super sharp, so it won't gouge anything. So that's ground. I tucked my ballast out and under there. It comes with some double-sided tape, so I was able to do that. Our high beams are still here. This will go to the bulb. The other side's right there. And then you can kind of see them sneaking over. Here's the LEDs. They both run just along the top of the radiator. You can see a little bit of RGB right there. And then there's our two other LED connectors. And then over here is the same story. I just taped this connection up with some electrical tape just to make sure it's a little bit better waterproof. High beam, the connector is down right there, and then it is grounded and coming off of our ballast. I also just stuck this ballast on the side, that double-sided tape. I used a little zip tie on that one too, just for extra, because it was available. And then that's going into here. I need to fix that grommet. And then it comes to right here. So we'll have to, this was really hard to get through. I should have used some foresight and just sent this through and then soldered these connections while it was in here. But I'll have to set up the controller with this thing and then get it running. I'm just going to put it on one of these switches. I have a bunch of them and they all already have power to them. It is a new day, and you can tell that by looking at all this dirt. I just had to go when I was putting this on. This is actually salt, but I just want to say real fast. So with these connectors for the LEDs, I did put a little bit of silicone in there, just on the connectors, top and bottom, and then put some heat shrink over that. So that was pretty simple. And then the DRL sends a low voltage signal, so we wanted to not run these HIDs on low voltage even though the harness sends the right voltage. So just under the wheel, you can see the connector right there. I just put a little bit of 5-minute epoxy to keep it where it needs to be. I need to clean this up a little better. But that's routed to this switch, which only turns on when the car is in auxiliary mode. But we're going to go down and look at this controller right here. And then there's some wires coming off of it. And you can see that I cut I think it's a black with the yellow stripe. So I'll put some heat shrink over those two ends just because I don't want that shorting out, so we'll do that. So you can see it's really dark on this road, and these things are performing excellent. Before on this road I could barely even see, and here's the brights. Like, it's just so much different. Although you've already seen the finished product in the intro, let's roll just a couple pictures and clips of those again. Let's go into the pros and cons, and then a little bit about what I would do differently. So for the pros, number one is obviously appearance, and along with that comes uniqueness. These look so much better to me. It's all opinion based, of course. They look way better to me than every other, just the stock ones. So I'm big on two things, and that's appearance, which I just spoke about, and then also performance. These perform so much better, or they function so much better. The stock ones are totally awful, and these just look so much better, as you can tell on that back road. I had an unexpected pro in the filming of this. I did much better lighting when I was in dark situations. Before, when I've been working on cars, the lighting has just been awful, and this made it made it significantly easier to work on the car because I have a lighting setup for this, even though, you know, it's not even close to cinematic lighting that I did. Alright, so two categories that kind of fall in both of pros and cons is cost. You can make this as cheap as possible, or you can make this super expensive. I went kind of right in the middle, where I still had a lot of the features with the different LEDs and stuff, but also the cheaper projectors and stuff. I know you can go and get some Morimoto projectors for about double what I paid completely, so there's that. You can also just do these $20 projectors in the HIDs and do it for under $100. That's not a bad choice. And then another one is difficulty that's in both, because this was relatively easy for me with all the things I need to do with the LEDs and whatnot, but for some other people it might be different. So going into the cons, the first category would be reliability. These, I'm guessing, are going to be less reliable than the stock ones because they are using these cheaper parts. And also just making custom stuff like this yourself always gives yourself the reliability. But the good thing is now you know the skills, or at least I know the skills, so I can go back in and fix these if I ever need to. And I can also do it for other people. And then the last, which was kind of a pain, was time. As a con, time was definitely not on my side. I just barely graduated mechanical engineering with a bachelor's, so I did all of this while I was in school, and it took up about all my free time. I spent around 90% of my time at work or during school, on school. So I had spent some 100% days, and then had some 30% days that I could work on these in extended time. The whole process took me about 2 weeks. If I was not going to school, I could easily do it in a weekend. That'd be no problem at all, just letting the paint dry over like a Saturday night or something and finishing up Sunday. But that is a huge factor and something to consider.
Something like the simple projector would take way shorter, and if you kept the chrome headlights, chrome everything, is you just plop the projectors in, it could probably be like a 20-minute job with taking off the lenses and putting them back on. So that's kind of subjective, but it took me a while. What I do differently, probably take out part of the LED, just do maybe the top strip, maybe not even do the LED track. It looks really good, but it's kind of flaring up on the edges a little bit, and I would choose to do something different there, probably like making my own, or just doing some like aluminum angle iron or something like that. Just kind of changing those up, but everything else I would do pretty much the same. Thanks for watching this video. I will continue to be making them, so stay tuned for that.